Hello, my amazing sixth grade math teachers, our first responders. Certainly, we have been through a distance learning journey since we last got together and looking at OneNote. Um, March 13th, our last day in school. And at that time, some of us were feeling like we weren't really sure about technology. And through the distance learning boot camp that we've been through in the last few weeks, we're all tech pros. So give yourself a pat on the back. Props to us all. We have been through a lot. We've gotten a lot of training. And the big picture is that we know that we're going to need every bit of it when we go back. When we get our babies back, they would have missed almost a half of year of being in school between the summer and this distance learning time. So we're going to need to have all the tools that we can to be strategic. And um, I'm excited that we already got some training. We got our foot on the ground, and so now we're ready to take off running with OneNote. I'm excited that OneNote classroom notebook actually was made for distance learning, and it will help to support where we are now with the things that we need to do even without students being in the notebook. And so that's what we're going to look at today, how we can um, enhance what we're doing now without adding students in the notebook. We'll look at that as like phase two. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so we're getting ready to get started. Let's look at our agenda. Um, Very simple. We're going to use a I do, you do access, and then wrap up model. And let's first talk about our approach. Our approach is a KIVS approach, which means keeping it very simple. We only have a few weeks left in the school term, and lots of different things will be happening. So we're just going to do a quick run through of one of the basic processes that is used across the board in for instruction for students, and that is creating whiteboard instruction. And we're only going to be focusing on OneNote, the web version. The way OneNote is set up, there's a web version and there's also a desktop version, but the web version is the simpler version. It's where everything that we need for today will be embedded. So that's where we're going to be focusing. So now we're looking at some of the amazing things that the math department um, has been doing in distance learning, creating some of these really cool learning objects, all types of tech, using all types of applications and technology, and pulling that into your Google Classroom spaces to create lessons. Um, I happen to be fortunate enough to be a co-teacher in Miss Young's class. And she set it up that way so that I would be able to um, support the OneNote classroom notebook functions. And so I can see um, the class 4, 5, 12. And so this is the agenda for your 512 class. Um, Focusing specifically on the whiteboard function because that's mostly what you're using to give students instruction, and then they're practicing on several of these items in these applications. So what we're going to do is look at the whiteboard function and very quickly, just to give us a frame for what it should look like in OneNote, because this is how we have it set up in Jamboard. On the top, large text with your problem, and then on the bottom, you use that to provide the instruction. So let's see if OneNote can duplicate that. Here's a preset page And I'm calling this page OneNote page is equal to whiteboard plus here are your brackets, and you can fill in the blanks as we think about and summarize what we're going to be doing. Um, this shows you the menu that we will be using primarily for the whiteboard, and the menu for the whiteboard um, has different colors, different sizes, typical whiteboard menu. But then you see that it also has something here that typical menus don't. We'll look at that later on. A key feature is that as you go forward, clicking around in menus, uh, this is where you add text. So if you're on the draw and you're trying to add text and it's not working, you have to go back here to this text feature, and that'll always give you a text box. Once you have a text box, you can add text. So I'm going to click on the text box and delete it. So that's how that works. If you're not on a text box, these are some of the other functions, eraser and so on. Your colors. You see, you even have access to other colors that you can use. So that's what the draw function looks like. So in order to get this box up on top, we would just clearly, pretty simply just click on a page and start typing in there. And that's going to give us a box that we can type in 20% and so on. The biggest difference is that we are going to change the size. It defaults to 11. And when we go home, we have this box that gives us the ability to manipulate text. And so putting it on 36 gives us a pretty decent size that we'll be able to put up on the top. So I've already done this on a page that's recreating the problem that Miss Young had. And so this is my page that I've already done this on. The question now is, can I do the instruction by using the whiteboard tools to write on? How does it look? And I'm going here to my features page. I'll scroll back and forth. My question here is for the drawing, does it feel and act like the Jamboard? That's our test. And so selecting the drawing tool, this doesn't feel that firm, and it's probably because of the width. So if I change the width, now I get a better representation, and I can actually write pretty smoothly. Can circle, can change color. So it's doing those things that a basic whiteboard would do, which is good. So then the next thing is, what else can it do? So using this, first we're going to demonstrate the math tool. If I click on that, you see that this comes up on the side. Let me do that again. That was pretty fast. So it's still in the draw menu. We click on the math tool, and now what you get is access to the ability to use a lot of math functions related to equations, inequalities. A lot of math functions can be used with this tool. It's not only just equations. And so you can be using this right there on the board and demonstrating it. Pretty powerful tool to have. In addition to that, coming off of this menu, let's look at what you can insert. I'm going to close this menu for a minute. So if you click on the insert menu, you have the ability to insert all of these different things. And some things are grayed out. That's only because I'm still on that tool, the draw tool. When I come off the draw tool and back to the text, then I go to the insert, and now you see I can insert a table, files, pretty much anything onto my whiteboard. So now I'm filling out my whiteboard with some other cool things. Clicking here, you have your links. So if you want to link them to another application or somewhere else on the web, you can do that. This is very cool because you can click this and then actually record. And I'm not going to do that, but you see it put the recording there. It has that dialogue. I'm not going to actually record here. I'm going to take that off. But you see you have that option. So all of those things can be put here right on your board. But now I'm going to go to one of the more exciting areas, and that's the view board. Because at the view board, you can do some pretty special things also for students modifying your lesson. So I have this box clicked, and this is where I have text. Anywhere that you have text in a text box in your notebook, if you click on in the view bar, you click on the immersive reader, here's what happens. Another dialogue comes up, and this dialogue gives you a breakdown of all of your text. So you can be teaching, and you can decide that you want whatever is in your box to be read to students, and you simply click immersive reader, and now 10% of flowers in a garden are it's red. Going to be read. Um, Pretty awesome. You can modify. I'm going to hide that so you can see the controls. So you can change the voice setting, you can change the speed, you can even change the gender of the voice. Um, but let's look a little bit closer at the text, and what you see is a setting that is highlighting parts of speech. In this setting of your immersive reader, you can add or take away syllables. You can highlight different parts of speech. You can show labels so that the parts of speech are actually labeled. Pretty awesome. So I'm going to take that off for a minute to help us focus on the next part for our ELL students. So before we get to the ELL, let's look at the focusing option. So you can have, for, let's say, SPED students, students that may need a little bit more support with reading, you can have line focusing for them. And then finally, for our ELL students, these are all of the languages. I'm looking for Spanish, Latin America, but again, you see some of those other languages. Spanish, Latin America would probably be most the most relevant here. And then I hit document, and here's what I get, the text. And if you look up here, you can toggle now between the Spanish and the English. How cool is that? So finally, my whiteboard can be set to read to students in English. 10% of flowers in a garden are red. And then toggle to Spanish. El 10% de los Pretty cool, huh? Here you can change the size of text, colors, backgrounds, all of that cool stuff. So those are your three different options that's really going to help you to modify instruction in an amazing way. I'm going to click off of this, go back to our home, and summarize the features that we saw. So we saw that we have the Jamboard features and so much more, the Math Assistant that's on the side. And by the way, as you go through with the Math Assistant, going back to draw, if you select the Math Assistant and you work out a problem, then you would get the ability also to go to use the immersive reader so that it could read the problem back to your students the same way you just read everything that was in the text box. So to wrap up, OneNote is actually going to give us some really powerful features, including being able to organize your text in one place, organizing everything related to your lesson. Finally, uh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong place. So going back to our agenda, we want to do our access part. We went through the I do's. Now let's look at the you do. Real simple. Um, I put a link here so that you can use this link to go to the Prince George's County Microsoft 365 sign-on page. And once you do that, you as a teacher, this is the link for you to use. You would click on your class notebook. And so you're going to go through the process like we did before, where we created a notebook for students. The only difference, though, is that you're not going to add students or you add teacher or any of this other stuff. You're just going to, again, keeping it very simple, you're just going to create a notebook. So let's say I call this my whiteboard, and my notebook overview, I'll just hit next. It'll automatically default to give me all these sections. That's up to you if you want to add another teacher. Let's say you wanted to add Miss Young, co-teachers, whatever, add students' names. You can hit next and skip that. Design spaces. Since there are no students in your class, you can just skip over that. It'll automatically default and put those in, but again, you don't need to use that. Hit create, and now you have your notebook that you can use as a whiteboard. It'll go directly into your OneDrive. So using that same link that you just used to get here, that's the same link that you will use to get back to the notebook to open it up and use it. You don't have to do any of that. If you want more training, you can use this link, and this is their Twitter. This will take you back home, and this will open up your new notebook. So let's open up our new notebook. Now you can open it up in OneNote or open it up online. Again, remember, that OneNote gives you two different platforms to use. So we're using online, and so we're going to open it up online, and this is what it will look like. Again, it always gives you, as a default, it'll give you a welcome screen, a collaboration area, and a content library area. So anything that you put in, you can just put right there into your content library, and you are good to go. Going to come out of this new notebook and go back to our lesson notebook to wrap up. And so in our agenda, we walked through the I do. I showed you how to get to the you do, the access to make a notebook with no students in the notebook. And then finally, our wrap up. As part of every welcome screen or welcome section in the notebook, you already have access to frequently asked questions, support. Again, it's the Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, and your frequently asked questions, that's already embedded in as part of the welcome. So I added that link to the agenda here. I just copied and paste. Oh, by the way, this is how you copy and paste a page link. I just right clicked, and then you get this entire menu. And if you want to link to a page, you copy that page link and put it somewhere else. Okay. Finally, I'm going to ask that once you share, if you could answer these questions, give us some feedback so that, remember, we're making this better so that we are ready to go in September. So please give um, your plus and minuses, what worked well, what didn't, what was challenging. How was it most useful, or how do you think it would be most useful for you and your students, and whatever other thoughts or ideas you might want to share, whether it's about next steps in the next couple of weeks or the summer or when we come back in the fall. I will provide you a form so that you can complete this within the next day or so. I'll probably send it to Ms. Young for her to distribute. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Have fun, and thanks a lot as we continue our OneNote journey. Awesome job. Please make sure that you continue to stay safe, and super excited to see what else we'll be able to be doing for our students with technology now that we are all technology pros. Okay, thanks a lot, and I will talk to you soon.